their water is now under a boil water notice, meaning after vigorously boiling water for 1 minute, this water can be used for drinking, cooking, and more. In Weaverville, there is no longer a boil water advisory, so that water can be consumed from the tap without boiling. Of course, today, Friday, we'll have the City of Asheville here for a water update. As of this morning, 636 Duke Energy customers in Buncombe County remain without power. Early voting continues through the weekend, beginning 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The ballot is quite long, but you can view it by going to www.buncombecounty.org/vote before you go, so you can see everything that's included. Our voting location sites: Black Mountain Library, East Asheville Library, Anchor Canada Library, Fairview Library, South Buncombe Library, West Asheville Library, as well as the Lester Community Center, UNCA Health and Counseling Center, Weaverville Community Center, and Dr. Wesley Grant Southside Center. Buncombe County parks are closed, and all parks and recreation events, including Halloween, are canceled indefinitely, as staff has been reassigned to help with disaster recovery and response. So while some City of Asheville parks will reopen, Buncombe County parks will remain closed. We look forward to reopening our parks to you as soon as possible. Important safety reminders as the community continues to receive power. If your electrical system has not been restored, please turn off all circuit breakers in your panel, especially your water heater. Once power is restored, please turn them back on, one at a time, with a sharp pause between breakers. Start with lighting and outlets first before major appliances. Do not turn on the water heater until if you are ensured that the tank is full. Do not repower your house and leave. Monitor your home for smoking, discolored, or excessively warm outlets. Visually monitor your circuit panel for smoke or excessive heat. Again, do not repower your home and leave. Monitor your home for smoking, discolored, or extremely warm outlets. Our fire chiefs and our Asheville Buncombe Air Quality Agency urge community members not to burn. If you must burn, please continue to exercise caution while you're doing open burning. We continue to urge small piles, 3 feet in diameter and height. Maintain clearance of 25 feet around your burn piles. And please have a method of extinguishment on hand. We have not yet reached humidity and wind levels that constitute a burn ban, but please exercise caution. Starting today, October 24th, Buncombe County residents can apply for help buying food through the Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly called DSNAP. Individuals and households not currently receiving food and nutrition benefits, but who were impacted by Hurricane Helene, can apply for DSNAP. People can start applying for assistance now through Tuesday, October 22nd. They can go online and register to ePass, that is epass.nc.gov, epass.nc.gov, or call in our call center at 844-453-1117. And I'll turn it over to Mary Ann Tinnery from FEMA.
Good morning. I'm here to provide some updates and important information to help with the disaster recovery. My name is Mary Ann Tierney. I'm the National Incident Management Assistance Team Lead assigned to Buncombe County. I want to start off by encouraging people to register for a disaster assistance if you have not. You can register by calling 800-621-FEMA. You can also visit disasterassistance.gov or download the FEMA app and register online in the app. In addition, you can visit our Disaster Recovery Center, which is located at AC Reynolds High School, or visit one of our disaster survivor assistance teams, which are in 17 locations today and will continue to be in various locations throughout the county for the foreseeable future. To date, we have provided over $36 million in assistance to 37,000 approved applicants throughout Buncombe County. This is important funding that will help people repair their homes, address essential needs, and continue with their recovery. We've also served over 3,600 visitors at the Disaster Recovery Center at AC Reynolds High School. And again, I encourage you to go there if you have questions about your application or you need to register for assistance. Our disaster survivor assistance teams have assisted over 3,000 people since they've been on the ground. And again, they're in 17 locations today. In addition, with the Department of Defense, we continue providing supplies to people through our Pods to People program throughout the county. And I also want to note that our public assistance program, which provides assistance to governments to recover their costs and help them rebuild, has already provided about $38 million in Buncombe County to support debris removal operations. We continue to deliver assistance to survivors. As I mentioned, our teams are out and about. They're in 17 locations today, and we expect to continue at that pace for the foreseeable future. I want to take a minute to talk about home inspections, because that is something that has come up pretty consistently in my conversations with county and city officials, as well as in conversations with disaster survivors. If your inspection has been returned due to inaccessibility, you should call FEMA at 800-621-FEMA to reschedule an appointment. We're also working to identify individuals in our system who have been marked as inaccessible and work with NCDOT on potential route clearance options. But it's important, if your inspection was returned for inaccessible, that you contact FEMA by calling 800-621-FEMA or visiting us at our Disaster Recovery Center. In addition, we are hiring. Part of our enduring mission here in Buncombe County, Western North Carolina, is building a team that will help us with the long-term recovery. And in my experience, the people who are a part of that community have the most equity in that recovery. And so FEMA is hiring. You can go on USA Jobs. You can search FEMA in North Carolina, and you can apply for a job with FEMA in Western North Carolina and become a part of our team to help with the recovery. This is a common practice in large disasters, and I encourage you to consider working at FEMA to help people before, during, and after disasters, especially in this case where you would have an opportunity to help your neighbors. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that there is a rumor about our responder lodging. I want to quash that rumor. These facilities are set to serve short-term housing for our staff so that we do not burden the community. I also want to remind everyone that they can go to FEMA.gov and visit our rumor response page to get factual information about FEMA's response and the federal government's role in this disaster. Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Martin O'Malley from the Social Security Administration.
Ms. Tierney, thank you very, very much. And thank you. And my name is Martin O'Malley. I am the Commissioner of Social Security for the Biden-Harris administration. And it's an honor to be here in solidarity and in support of the very capable fire, police, first responders, the county manager, the city manager, everyone who's come together here, including FEMA and other federal agencies like Social Security, in a whole of government approach for the people that are hurting, that have been so devastated by this disaster that ripped through this beautiful part of our country. I just visited the Disaster Recovery Center, where Social Security's employees, even though their field office here in Asheville was shut down, and even though many of them have trees on the roofs of their own houses, have been there to serve the people of this area as they come in for help. I sat there and was present at the interview of one older woman wrapped in a Red Cross blanket who had been totally wiped out by this event, who lost her entire business, but was referred from one of the FEMA tables to our table. And we were able to secure for that woman retroactive retirement of $16,000 in a retroactive payment that she really needed right now. Now, that's one story among the 1,837 people that we've seen ever since we were there on day one, that disaster recovery center was set up. Our agency serves 72 million people, and many of those are people right here, right now, in need of our help. So I want to thank our employees here in Asheville. I also want to thank Governor Cooper and all the people in the state of North Carolina who have come together in a pretty powerful demonstration of the truth that, in fact, we are stronger together. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we'll be joined by Dr. David Corty. He is with the North Carolina Geological Survey, and Jonathan Gott, GODT. He is with the U.S. Geological Survey, and they have some updates for our community.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Dr. David Corty. I'm with the North Carolina Geological Survey. One of our responsibilities is to map, model, and respond to landslide events in Western North Carolina. I'd like to thank our team at NCGS for all their hard work that they've been doing and the support during this event. Our entire organization has been mobilized to help the people out here and assess their properties for landslide damage. And if further movement can occur, earth movement. I especially want to acknowledge those on the team who are personally impacted by this event, but continue to work to better understand these landslides and how they happen and why they go where they go. And I want to thank our partner U.S. Geological Survey for their partnership and their support during this time when our team struggled to communicate with the outside world the first week. Due to the impacts of the storm, the USGS were the first people we called to help support us. And now I want to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Jonathan Gott from the United States Geological Survey.
Thank you, David. At first, I want to acknowledge our most important science partner in our activities, and that's been the people in the mountain communities of North Carolina, specifically those in Buncombe, McDowell, Rutherford, Henderson, Yancey, Haywood, Madison, and Transylvania. We've had the opportunity to meet with some of these folks and really feel for the impacts to those communities, and it's been a tragic occurrence. I've had the opportunity to work a number of landslide disasters of this scale, and I'll say that in terms of the impacts to communities, this is one of the worst in U.S. history. And as we learn more, we will be able to hopefully take those tragic occurrences and learn from that going forward to build more resilient and safer communities. I want to thank David and his team at the North Carolina Geological Survey for all of their work, and particularly those that David mentioned that were directly impacted by this event. We stand behind our state partners in these occasions and are happy to do so, and that's our responsibility. We, so far on our preliminary work, using satellite imagery, other photography, and some helicopter surveys, estimate that there were at least 1,000 landslides that were initiated by the storm sequence that started with the heavy rainfall and then Hurricane Helene. The good news is in our surveys, our objective has been to identify any large major landslide movement that could occur in the coming weeks or months that would impact recovery activities. And so far, we have not identified any landslides of that kind. That's very good news, but we will say that all those landslide scars that you can see out on the mountainsides out there during heavy rainfall, that those can become active again. And so we are working with the counties and other communities to make sure that information about risk going forward during heavy rain and other activities is available to those. And I think we have some photographs that David's going to talk to about some of the landslides that have occurred. And I'll say that I'm going to turn it back to you, David.
What you see here is a photograph from it's around Fairview. And it's a channel of where a landslide came down. And there's basically three things that determine when and how and where these things go and when they happen. And that is the steepness of the hill, number one, steepness of the mountain. Number two is how much water is there. And number two is where is it going to go? And to address each one of those very quickly, if you have to the more you lean forward walking up the mountain, the steeper it is and the higher the probability that there could be a landslide. Number two is the amount of water available. And here in Western North Carolina, we've determined that it's around more than 5 inches in 24 hours precipitation, that you should be aware that that landslides are more likely to occur under those conditions. The other way you can think about this is it rains a few inches a day for several days in a row. And the third way you can think about this is double-digit rainfall in single-digit hours. Now, what Helene did to us was it was over 5 inches every 24 hours for almost 4 days. So we were primed to have these landslides. The third thing is, where's it going to go? It's going to go down a stream channel. If you have these stream channels, you can see right here with the folks standing in the middle of it. That was probably a small stream that came down the side of the mountain, and now it's much bigger and widened out. Most of the material from up above is now down to at the bottom, and it probably will not fail again for a while. This one here looks pretty clean. It's got scoured down to bedrock, so it'll take a while to fill back up before something happens. We want to flip to the next. This is another landslide from the Fairview area. It went down and took out a brand new 2024 Corvette, among other things. But you can see that there's still a lot of material up here that can fail. You can see this cracked piece here that could fall off and go back in there. That stuff may move if we get a major storm or rainy conditions like I had mentioned previously. And we don't expect that to happen for several weeks yet, but the person who lives down below this, he doesn't live there anymore. But if in this kind of case, we would refer them, we would ask them to keep an eye on the weather report. And if it's going to rain for several inches for several days or more than 5 inches in 24 hours, to maybe evacuate for the weekend or a few days, whatever the case may be. We have another? Yeah. This is another example. We're looking at the same slide we just looked at at previously. You can see the trough, the trench where the material went down. And again, the material in the top here that is cracking and could potentially fail again. That's what we have. All right, Jonathan?
I'll just close by saying the U.S. Geological Survey has an online dashboard tool that can be found at landslides.usgs.gov. And I want to thank the team of USGS scientists and working in partnership with our colleagues at the North Carolina Geological Survey and the large group of volunteers across both the federal family and our and others working to help provide situational awareness for this event. And with that, I'll close. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear from Dane Peterson, the Buncombe County Solid Waste Director, to talk about debris removal in Buncombe County.
Thank you, Lillian, and good morning, everybody. So I want to provide an update, as Lillian said, on disaster debris and operations that are currently underway. So disaster debris removal is underway at Buncombe County at public roads and right-of-ways, including primary and secondary NCDOT maintained roads. SDR, or Southern Disaster Recovery, is our debris management contractor, and they are currently performing debris removal operations in the county and are ramping up these operations each day. Current debris removal estimates are approximately 5 million cubic yards in the public right-of-way areas of unincorporated Buncombe alone. We will continue to invest significant resources and efforts moving forward to appropriately remove and manage debris that is an immediate threat to public safety. With the historic amounts of debris generated from this storm, it will be a long removal process. Buncombe County staff continues efforts to identify and permit temporary disaster debris management sites throughout our county. Currently, we have 3 temporary sites activated in Buncombe County, and these include the Cane Creek Park, Old County Landfill in Woodfin, and the Inca AB Tech campus in Candler. We're working with all of our partners to secure additional debris management sites so that we can add to this network of locations that will help expedite the debris removal process. Please note that these debris removal sites will be managed by county contractor SDR and will be for their usage only and will not be open to the general public. Activities that will be occurring at the temporary debris sites include staging of storm debris, processing material stream collected, including vegetative, construction and demolition material, electronics, household hazardous waste, and white goods and metal. Vegetative debris will be processed at these sites via incineration or grinding. C&D material or construction demolition material will be sorted and hauled out from these sites to sanitary landfill. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Roger Dale with SDR, who's the program manager for this area.
Thank you, Dane. Good morning, everyone. Just to bring you up to date as to where we are as far as SDR. Our first mission was to do emergency push, which was to try to help get roads open. We then went on to critical infrastructure places. We were completed with that task. Now we're in different areas of the county as well as the cities. The one thing I do want to point out to people is you see us come by and you haven't brought your debris out. That's not the only pass we're going to make. We're going to make several passes. As Dane said, this is going to unprecedented amount of debris that we have here in the Buncombe, Asheville area. It will take several passes. One thing I do want to encourage the citizens to do is try to get your debris out to the right of way. I know in some places you say you don't have the right of way, maybe it's already full. As we come by and pick that up, then obviously you can turn around and put it right back out there or more if you have to. Again, we will make multiple passes. And other than that, it's going to be a long road just with the amount of debris, but the county and as well as the cities, they're directing us on what to do and the good communication skills back and forth. So just be patient. Just a long, treat it as a marathon, I would suggest. But anyway, thank you, Dane.
Thank you, Roger. Just a couple more points. As far as we would like to encourage members of our communities to put safety first when handling storm debris and moving this material to the NCDOT right away, as Roger mentioned. Please use appropriate personal protective equipment, including long pants and sleeves, safety gloves, and safety glasses. Please do not block roadways or access points with debris piles. As Roger said, there will be multiple passes that these trucks will be making in our communities. We're also landfill space is a critical point, and not just our landfill in Buncombe County, but landfill capacities across Western North Carolina and throughout the state are going to be tested through this time frame. So please note our focus with airspace and conservation and recycling is as important, more important than it ever has been. And these temporary debris sites, I want to focus on that word as temporary. We're going to need these as logistical sites to help this debris management process. It's going to take some time, but the goal is to get these back as pre-existing condition before these operations started. So these sites give us an opportunity to not just load material mixed together on trucks, send it straight to landfill to fill up our space. It gives us opportunity to sort materials, get the vegetative out, separate the C&D appliances, those things, so that we're very focused on preserving our landfill space. Thank you, Lou.
Next, we'll hear from Dr. Mullendor, our Buncombe County Health and Human Services Medical Director, for a little bit more advice on how to clean up safely.
Thank you, Lillian. Good morning. So I'm here to talk about some threats to the health of people who are cleaning up post-flooding. So first, I'm going to talk about tetanus. So tetanus is a rare but very serious disease that requires immediate medical treatment. You may know it better as lockjaw. I remember hearing about lockjaw when I was a kid, and people would warn you about stepping on rusty nails. Tetanus is caused by a toxin produced by a type of bacteria that is found in the environment, including in soil, dust, and feces. The bacteria can get into a person's body through broken skin, like when there is an injury. These bacteria are more likely to infect someone when their wound is contaminated with dirt, feces, or saliva, like from an animal bite. When they have a penetrating or puncture wound, like one caused by a nail, or when the injury involves dead tissue, like may be seen after a burn, crush injury, or frostbite. Symptoms of tetanus typically appear 3 to 21 days after someone is exposed to the bacteria that causes tetanus. The first sign is typically spasms of the jaw muscles or lockjaw. Other symptoms can include trouble swallowing, sudden involuntary muscle spasms, often in the stomach, painful muscle stiffness all over the body, and seizures. 1 out of 10 people in the United States with tetanus end up dying with it. So vaccination and wound care are really important. These are the best ways to prevent tetanus. So for wound care, immediately after an injury, clean the wound with clean water and mild soap. So by clean water, I mean bottled water, or if you're under a boil water notice or advisory, water that was boiled and cooled. Remove any visible dirt or debris from the wound. Then cover it with a clean bandage. See a healthcare professional if the wound is deep or gaping, if it is from a puncture injury like a nail, if it has dirt, wood, metal, or something else stuck in it, if it is caused by an animal bite, if it involves dead tissue like can occur after a burn, crush injury, or frostbite, or if it becomes red, swollen, oozes, or if you have other signs of infection like fever, increased pain, shortness of breath, a fast heart rate, or confusion. So tetanus vaccination. Tetanus vaccination is recommended for anyone who has an unknown vaccine history or is unvaccinated, or did not have at least 3 prior doses of tetanus vaccine, which are typically received when you're a young infant. Or if you have a clean or minor wound and last received a tetanus vaccine 10 years or more ago, or if you have a dirty or major wound, again, wound that's contaminated with dirt, soil, feces, or saliva, puncture wound, or a wound resulting from a crush or burn or frostbite. If you have one of those injuries and your last tetanus shot was 5 or more years ago, all those people should have their tetanus vaccine. No tetanus vaccination is needed if you have had at least 3 doses of tetanus vaccine and your last dose was less than 5 years ago. So tetanus vaccines are available at local urgent care clinics and may also be available from your primary care provider. They're also available at the Buncombe County Health and Human Services Immunization Clinic, currently by appointment only. You can call 828-250-5096 to make an appointment. We also have health providers out at our community care stations who are able to administer tetanus vaccines. Next, I will talk about mold. So mold spores are normally found in the air we breathe, but flood-damaged homes and businesses are at risk for increased mold growth. And exposure to moldy environments can cause a variety of health effects or none at all. Although symptoms can vary, the most common symptoms seen in people exposed to mold indoors include stuffy nose and sinus congestion, itchy or burning eyes, red, watery eyes, cough, wheezing or difficulty breathing, sore or irritated throat, skin rash, and headache. People with asthma or other lung issues or who are allergic to mold can have more severe reactions. And people with weakened immune systems and people with chronic lung disease may get infections in their lung from mold. You should discuss your health concerns with your primary care provider because symptoms of mold exposure could also be caused by other exposures or other illnesses. Ideally, to reduce the risk of mold exposure, before you move back into a flood damaged building, that building should be completely dry, and any dirt or trash left by flooding should be removed from the building. Moldy or mildewed items must be completely cleaned and disinfected or thrown away. If not, the mold and mildew will return and possibly cause health problems. You should remove and discard any drywall or insulation that was flooded, and items that cannot be cleaned and dried well or quickly enough to prevent mold and mildew from growing must be thrown away. This includes things like carpet padding, mattresses, rugs, and upholstered furniture. Clean mold on hard surfaces by using a mixture of 1 cup of household bleach and 1 gallon of water. Make sure that you wear goggles and vinyl, nitrile, or rubber gloves and an N95 respirator. And never mix bleach with ammonia or other cleaners because that can create a poisonous gas. Remember to never use bleach in a closed space. Make sure to open doors and windows first to ensure that enough fresh air is available to prevent eye, nose, or throat irritation. And people who are at risk of severe health problems from mold should not take part in cleaning it up. Again, that includes people with allergies to mold, people with weakened immune systems or underlying lung disease, like asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD. And finally, I'll talk about carbon monoxide poisoning. So carbon monoxide is a odorless, colorless gas that can cause sudden illness and even death when breathed in. Carbon monoxide is produced when fuel is burned in things like vehicles, gas and oil burning furnaces, gas stoves and grills, portable generators, charcoal grills, and fireplaces. The most common symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning are headache, dizziness, weakness, upset stomach, vomiting, chest pain, and confusion. If you breathe in a lot of carbon monoxide, it can make you pass out or even die. And people who are sleeping are at greater risk because they can die before they even have any symptoms. While everybody is at risk from carbon monoxide poisoning, some people are more likely to get sick from it, including infants, the elderly, and people with chronic heart and lung problems or anemia. So to reduce the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning, never heat your house with a gas oven, never burn charcoal indoors, never use a portable gas camp stove indoors, and never use a generator inside your home or garage, even if doors and windows are open. Only use generators outside more than 20 feet away from your home, doors, and windows. And make sure to install carbon monoxide detectors in your home near every sleeping area. And just like with smoke detectors, check the batteries in these carbon monoxide detectors every 6 months. And we're coming upon the time change, which is the recommended time to remember to check the batteries. So thank you, and may you all stay safe during this recovery.
Thank you, Dr. M. Next, we'll turn to the city. Mayor Esther Mannheimer is here. And we also have City Manager Deborah Campbell and Clay Chandler, Water PIO, along with a representative from their permits department. Mayor.
Thank you. Good morning. As we complete the restoration of the life-sustaining needs of the people, water, power, and communications, the elected officials of Asheville and Buncombe County would like to express our deepest gratitude to all those city and county workers who have been working around the clock to help right this ship. We also want to thank the army of volunteers who have heeded the call and stepped up to help a neighbor through this crisis. We thank you all for your tireless efforts. The community that you are a part of is greater for it. As we begin the healing process of recovery, on behalf of the elected officials of Asheville and Buncombe County, I would like to invite everyone across our county to join us in person or in spirit on Tuesday, October 22nd, for a prayer vigil at 6 p.m. This vigil will be held at City County Plaza in Pack Square Park. That's Tuesday, October 22nd at 6 p.m. in Pack Square Park in downtown Asheville. For those who cannot join us in person, please join with your community members at your community centers, places of worship, or any place you choose to come together to reflect and hold each other in our hearts. On Tuesday, October 22nd at 6 p.m., let's all light a candle, say a prayer, and honor our grief in a collective moment of solemn reflection.
Thank you, Mayor. And good morning. My name is Deborah Campbell, and I serve as the city manager for the city of Asheville. As usual, I want to start today by thanking everyone for your continued support to help our community recover from this devastating storm. We're on day 23 of our emergency response and recovery effort. This morning, our city update will include a few announcements from me about our efforts to reopen city parks and buildings and give you the status of our curfew. I will then turn it over to our Water Resources Public Information Officer, Clay Chandler, for an update on water services, and then to Mark Matheny, Director of our Development Services Department, to provide an overview of our damage assessment efforts and the expedited permitting process for recovery. We continue to focus on 4 major areas: addressing the basic needs of our community with a focus on our most vulnerable populations and the broader community, restoring water services, community safety, and debris removal. Although we are making incredible progress in fixing our damaged water distribution system and expanding water service throughout our community, the city continues to operate our community care stations and water distribution sites to provide both bottled and bulk water, as well as meals ready to eat. And you can go to our website and get all of those locations and times. In addition to success in restoring our water service, we have made tremendous progress in cleaning up our parks, and just in time for some warm weather that is forecast for this weekend. After closing for obvious safety reasons, some Asheville parks are ready to welcome community members back to that space. As of 11 o'clock this morning, over 48% or 32 parks have opened. For the most up-to-date list of open parks, visit asheville.nc.gov/parks. And for those of you who can visually see, they are listed on the slide here. Asheville Parks and Recreation crews have worked hard to reopen our parks and recreational facilities. However, water for drinking fountains has been shut off, but remnants may still remain in pipes. Do not drink water from any drinking fountains until the city of Asheville lifts all boil water advisories and notices. If a park is listed as closed, everyone should stay away from that location. Riverside Cemetery is closed except to those attending funeral services. Asheville Park and Recreation's previously scheduled activities, events, programs, and rentals are canceled at this time. All picnic shelter, sports field, and community center rentals are also canceled until further notice. Event producers working with the City of Asheville's Office of Special Events should reach out to their representative with questions about previously permitted events. And lastly, in terms of parks, River parks will remain closed indefinitely. Our curfew, starting Monday, October 21st, the emergency curfew will be lifted. And Chief Mike Lamb is here to answer any questions you may have about this action. And in closing, I'd like to again extend my continued thanks to the mayor and city council, all of our dedicated City of Asheville employees, our other partners in the county, state, and federal government, as well as our private and nonprofit partners who continue to work around the clock to help restore our community. I would now like to turn it over to Clay Chandler to provide an update on water services, and following Clay, Mark Matheny will update you all on our expedited permitting process and our damage assessment efforts. Clay.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell. All right, so we're going to start again today with a service map, and I was hoping to have a little better news. But the Bee Tree area, I think I mentioned a couple of days ago that that line has required backfilling and stabilization. The line's intact, but it required some backfilling and stabilization before we could pressurize it. Backfilling, stabilization was done, it was pressurized, and there's a leak somewhere that our staff is trying to find. So no exact timetable for the 40 homes or so that water line serves. Staff have been on site since very early this morning. Our leak detection crews have been there trying to find out what the issue is. Little better news on Eastmore. Yesterday, contractors were able to clear the newly shaped Swananoa River of a pretty good amount of debris and get one connection of the temporary water line that they're putting in there made. Again, that temporary water line is going to be 2 inches in diameter, and it will provide basically flushing water to the 75 homes or so in that area, not much else. They hope to make the second connection of the temporary line today and start pushing water to those residents sometime this evening or tonight. And I would like to remind residents in the lower portions of that neighborhood to, once you sort of perform some basic sanitation needs with your water, to conserve as much as possible so we can get that water up the hill to your neighbors. Also, I do want to mention, I read a really good article in the Asheville Citizen Times about the Eastmore neighborhood. 17-year-old Carson Stubbs, shortly after the storm, created a system using pulleys and buckets to pull water out of the Swananoa River so his neighbors can have flushable water, which is an outstanding example of mountain ingenuity and community service. So good on you, Carson. All right, next. All right, so this is the beginning of the treatment process at North Fork Reservoir using the aluminum sulfate and the caustic soda. I know the boat is underwhelming, but it got the job done. All of the treatment that you see in those big totes there has been put into the reservoir. Our plan now is to wait a couple of days to see how effective the initial round was before we decide on a second round of treatment. Do want to note that, yes, the guy who's about to get in that boat is wearing a hazmat suit. There's a good reason for that. The caustic soda can irritate your skin upon direct contact. And again, that's a treatment, or that's a chemical that we use in our normal treatment process. Anyway, again, like aluminum sulfate, caustic soda is water soluble, so it's going to dissolve before it, obviously enters our water lines. So this is a video one of our North Fork operators sent in the middle of the first round of treatment. If you look closely, you can see that coagulation process just starting to happen. Now, obviously, it's got to happen on a tremendous scale to clear the water in that reservoir from the top down. But you can see here sort of what that process at the very beginning, at least, is going to look like. See those very tiny particles sort of gravitating toward one another, where before the treatment, because of the electrical charge they carry, they were basically pushing out from each other. And so that's a positive sign. And again, we don't have an accurate timeline on how much this or how long this treatment process will take. We obviously wanted it to happen very, very quickly. I think we know enough now to realize that it won't. It's going to be a long process. How long that is, I'd love to be able to tell you, but I just can't. So going back to the map here, I'm going to make a couple of points. We understand, you know, we've gotten service to 90-ish% of our system, probably pushing 95 by now. We understand that there are still pockets that don't have service. We understand that that's frustrating for the residents. It's frustrating for us too. Assure you we're doing everything we can to fill out those last few areas and bring service to everybody as soon as possible. We also understand that the water flowing through our distribution system does not represent a perfect solution. We would much rather be delivering our normally pristine water to 100% of our customers, and I can assure you that we're doing everything humanly possible to reach that point. Couple of areas that are still out, obviously the elevated areas. I know Reynolds Mountain is out. I know some of the western edge of our system in Inca Candler, some of the elevated areas are out. And again, that is simply a function of the laws of physics. It takes more water pressure to push water up a mountain than it does along a flat stretch of ground. So I kind of have a brief update today, and I know you guys will have some questions afterward, but for right now, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Matheny from Development Services.
Good morning, Mark Matheny, Director of Development Services for the City of Asheville. TS Helene, Tropical Storm Helene emergency permits are available from our department at our website at develop.asheville.nc.gov. Permits are available for building alterations, repairs, as well as individual building trades, including electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. Permits are intended to allow for immediate removal of storm damage related items and reconstruction to pre-storm conditions. Permit fees are all waived. Permits are issued as quickly as possible, but at least within 24 hours. Structures located within the historic overlay district will obtain a CA, a certificate of appropriateness, from the Historic Resources Division. Structures located within the special flood hazard areas, also known as flood zones, will have a flood permit associated with the TS Helene emergency permits. Structures located within the flood zones that approach a level of substantial damage / improvement will be placed on hold and given to our Public Works Stormwater Flood team to continue a conversation, in-depth conversations with the building owners to discuss further steps. Permits are required for all work within and to a building and structure. While there are statutory allowances for when a permit is not required, securing a permit has these additional benefits: tracking and recording the magnitude of the damage. For our FEMA reporting on both damage and the value, the cost to our overall community. For home and business owners' insurance purposes, and to keep our county tax records updated. Any work that has a construction value of $40,000 or more requires a North Carolina licensed general contractor. Additional information on licensing for contractor and for general and trade contractors may be found at our office at 161 South Charlotte Street and at the following websites: nclbgc.org for general contractors, nclicensing.org for plumbing, mechanical, and fire sprinkler contractors, ncbedc.org for electrical contractors. An initial round of damage assessment, which we called phase 1, that began on 9/30 and was completed on 10/11, identified approximately 1,500 commercial and residential structures that received storm-related damage. Now, please understand, these are not exact numbers. There is a significant margin of error due to electronic connectivity when we first started the assessment, as well as areas that we could not get into due to floodwaters and heavy siltation. Phase 2 building damage assessments started yesterday, 10/17, and will continue for the next couple of weeks. Phase 2 is a more detailed 360-degree assessment of structures that receive storm-related damage. Building damage assessment teams are comprised of individuals from the Development Services Department, the Fire Marshal's Office, the Public Works Stormwater Flood Division, individuals from other jurisdictions from across the state. We're expecting about 10 at a time. Building damage assessment teams will be traveling in pairs and with City of Asheville marked vehicles. Building damage assessments include the posting of buildings with green, yellow, and red paper tags. Green indicates there was storm-related damage to a building, but occupancy can be immediately reestablished. Yellow indicates that there are damaged areas of a building that should be avoided, but it is occupiable within the safe parts of the building. These will be noticed on the tags. Red indicates that the building is unsafe to occupy. Red does not indicate a condemnation. Red does not indicate an order of demolition. If your building did not receive storm-related damage, you won't be receiving a tag or documentation from our department. You may operate your business as usual. Additional information, including FAQs, can be found at our website at develop.asheville.nc.gov, via email at PAC, which is PAC, at asheville.nc.gov, and by phone at 828-259-5846. Thank you very much. Now back to Lily.
Thank you. And our last person we'll hear from is Barbara Maida Stoley with Goodwill Industries. I know a lot of people have questions about where to donate and how to access those donations. So Barbara?
Thank you. Good morning still. It's great to be with you today. I'm Barbara Maida Stoley. I'm the president and CEO of Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. If you're unfamiliar with our organization, I'll just take a moment to provide just a bit of context. Our Goodwill operates 51 stores throughout a 31-county territory, from Forsyth County to the west Tennessee line. We operate and manage 19 career and workforce service centers and another 30 attended donation centers throughout that same area. Goodwill employs more than 1,100 team members, including more than 400 that live and work in this Asheville area. And last year, we provided training and workforce development services for more than 34,000 individuals across our territory and about 9,400 in Western North Carolina. In the days and weeks since Hurricane Helene devastated the region, our Goodwill organization has focused on 3 priorities: connecting and supporting our team members and their families, reopening all of our locations, as much as opening our stores, as well as offering gathering spaces to allow individuals to get a sense of normalcy again. And thirdly, this was intentional, is opening a community response centers that allows individuals to obtain training, workforce services, and collaborate with the community. I'm happy to share that Goodwill team members have all been contacted and are safe. Our retail stores, our career centers, and our workforce services are all reopened with the exception of one, and that's on Tunnel Road. We have sustained some serious damage over the course of the last couple of weeks, and some stores and locations have sustained minimal damage. I am so very proud of our team members, all of whom many that have lost homes, cars, and possessions, but they've never lost hope. They wanted to get back to work to support their friends and neighbors in need during this harrowing time. I'm delighted to share the details today about our community response. This week, we opened 3 community hub locations, which will serve as a centralized site for Goodwills to pool our programs and services, along with our retail resources to support the community. One of 3 hubs is in Boone. The other 2 is in this area. Our Asheville Workforce Development Center, located at 1616 Patton Avenue here in Asheville. Our Haywood County Center, located at 160 South Main in Waynesville. At each hub, Goodwill team members will help individuals file for disaster unemployment assistance, share information about applying or reapplying for FEMA, and submitting file insurance claims. We'll also have a wonderful program that Goodwill will sponsor called the Good Neighbor Voucher Program. Each voucher is worth $25. And we will be able to offer those to individuals that have lost everything in their home or that would be in need of goods, clothing, household items. Each hub will have these vouchers to provide individuals that come into the hub. They're also available in each one of our store locations as well throughout Northwest North Carolina. They do not expire. We have worked with disaster relief programs in the past, and this is our best way of reaching our community needs is through the voucher program. And we've had this program for the last 10 years, and we're very, very happy to be able to provide this resource as a community resource. And before I wrap up, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the incredible generosity and the continued support from our communities. We could not do this without you. Your generosity of donating goods and household items continue to support your friends and your neighbors in a way through the Good Neighbor Voucher Program. We'd like to thank you for your continued support, and we'd like to thank the city and county officials, the first responders, for their leadership during this crisis. And we continue to support the community in any way needed as we move forward. Thank you, Lillian.
While we were here, we got some breaking news from Buncombe County Schools. So I want to share that on their behalf. This morning, the Buncombe County Schools Board of Education approved a reopening plan for Buncombe County Schools. Wednesday, October 23rd and Thursday, October 24th will be return to work days for teachers and staff, including bus drivers, TSAs, and nutrition team members. The first student day is Friday, October 25th. That day, along with school days of October 28th through November 1st, will operate on a 2-hour delay for students. So go to the Buncombe County Schools Facebook page, or if you're parents, I'm sure you're getting all of the auto dialers and emails as we speak. But that is the latest news from Buncombe County Schools on their reopening. Wanted to provide an update from Spectrum. They have restored service to 78% of their customers. There are still 21,975 customers still offline, but they are still working on that October 21st timeline for restoration of service to those customers. With that, we have about 14 minutes for questions from the media. I know that we had a lot of content here today, but super important stuff that we wanted to make sure we were sharing out with the community.
Hi, this is Will Atwater with North Carolina Health News. I have a question for Clay Chandler about wells.
Morning, Will.
Hi, good morning, Clay. I know you touched on this, I think maybe a week ago, but could you just go over this again in terms of residents, Asheville residents who may be interested in installing a backup well? And will they, can they do so and maintain their municipal hookup? And if so, under what conditions?
Yeah, they can maintain their connection to the city water system as it relates to if they decide to discontinue well service, they will be able to switch back to city water. Now, to do that, they're going to have to install what's called a backflow device, and that's a device that's designed to prevent well water from getting into our distribution system. And it's not going to be as easy as if they're on well one day and they want to be on city water the next. It's not like they can just flip a switch. It's a little bit of a lengthy process to make that transition.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I have a couple of questions for Clay as well on water restoration. Number one, is Candler and West Asheville restored? And if not so, some folks were kind of wondering about the slowness of that process. Could you speak to that, Clay?
Parts of Candler have been restored, not all of it. Again, there's going to be pockets that get water service after others, and that's due to a couple of factors. The primary factor being elevation. I don't think that applies to Candler. But we found some leaks and some breaks, like I said, that we would find only once pipes were pressurized, and that has come true. And we're working as quickly as we can to get those fixed.
And can you really quickly again talk about the safety of water for showering for folks? Is it the case that it is actually, safe to shower in this water in most places?
If you are a City of Asheville water customer, you are under a boil water notice. And when it comes to showering, that means, yes, you can shower in it with a couple of caveats. You don't need to swallow the water, obviously. If you're immunocompromised or if you have open wounds or cuts, recent surgical incisions, or anything like that, it's recommended that you shower with water that has, or bathe with water that has been boiled and cooled or otherwise purified. And again, I will point back to the document that lives at the very top of our recovery website that goes through all of this.
Great. And then my last question, just real quickly, the North Fork, you may have said this already, but when will it be able to start filtering?
Timeline unknown.
Thank you so much, Clay.
This is Greg Carlier, Mount Express. Hey, Clay. You did mention on the purification of the reservoir. Just wanted to ask you, does a long time on getting the reservoir treated enough to put it in the water treatment plant? Are we still talking about weeks? And is there a chance that potable water will come to part of the system, like those near Mills River, before other parts, or is this an all or nothing thing?
So I'll answer the second part of your question first. Our plan now is to lift the boil water notice when the entire system has potable water, just because among those boundaries in areas where one part is served by North Fork, the other part is served by Mills River, there can be mixing there. Another way that sort of water can potentially mix, let's say there's a major line break in the southern part of our system, water from North Fork moving south is going to rush into that water line that normally would be served by Mills River. And so the plan right now is to lift the boil water notice when everybody has potable water. And before that can happen, we've got a lot of questions about this too. People asking about, well, is the tank that feeds my neighborhood going to have half potable, half non-potable? No, that tank will be drained again through a flushing process that we don't expect to put anybody out of service. Our entire system will be flushed with potable water. Tanks will be drained of non-potable water, filled back up with potable water. And again, we expect that transition to be fairly seamless.
Okay, cool. And then as far as the treatment at North Fork goes, You mentioned just how many rounds of treatment are you expecting to do to get all the sediment to settle? And then also, are there any long-term consequences of treating directly in the reservoir with aluminum sulfate and caustic soda, as opposed to doing it in the water treatment plant like you say you normally do?
So as far as how many rounds of this we will need, we will have a better idea in a couple of days after we see how effective the first round is. And, you know, to give you an idea, the volume that we're treating directly into the lake of aluminum sulfate and caustic soda is about 10 parts per million. We generally treat between 3 and 4 parts per million. Now, I know that sounds like an astonishing increase, but for a little context, the reservoir in Mississippi, where I moved here from, routinely is treated with this same process at 15 to 20 parts per million. Some drinking water reservoirs that are especially turbid can be treated between 50 and 60 parts per million. So we're not talking about anything that's outside the EPA guidelines. Again, they gave us guidance on this. We have an EPA rep at North Fork who basically lives there now, who is supervising this process. And so working with our regulators, this is a very delicate process, has to be very precise, but working with our regulators so far, we think we've gotten it pretty right.
Hi, Clay. It's Laura Lee at BPR.
Hello, Laura.
Couple quick questions. One is people are saying, is it helpful for them after they've done their 15 minutes of flushing to then come back and flush again?
If you're not a heavy water user, meaning if you're not, you know, have 3 or 4 people who shower every day in your home, if you live alone or something like that, it probably is beneficial to, after that initial flush, maybe once a day or so, run your bathtub or outdoor faucet for 5 or 10 minutes just to keep pressure moving through your system and not allow that sediment to settle.
And what about specific advice on radiators? We keep getting that question.
So we've got a couple of staff members who have radiators, and sort of the same guidance applies to radiators as water heaters. If your water is very, very brown because of sediment, you need to flush your system before you activate your radiator.
And one last quick tip. If you are a gardener, can you use this water to put on plants that you're potentially going to then eat food out of?
Absolutely, you can. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
We've had a few questions in the chat about debris for Dane. Will Atwater asks, will construction and demolition debris be sent to our landfill here or sent elsewhere?
So we're talking through that right now with our contractor SDR. Our goal is to source landfill capacity outside of our Buncombe County landfill. So those plans are underway. That's a process in securing that airspace in other locations. But yes, that is the goal, is to send as much C&D material as we can to other landfills that have more sufficient capacity.
And the next one from social media, we had someone ask about picking up debris on privately maintained roads. Is there a plan for that?
So appreciate the question. Now I know we're getting a lot of questions, a lot of feedback on that, and we hear that. We're engaging our partners on that conversation as far as state emergency management, the Army Corps of Engineers, and FEMA. So we're in the assessment process for private roads, commercial properties, and waterway debris. So more information is coming on that.
We also had a question earlier in the week from someone who has a very steep driveway. That's a common problem around here, and they're having trouble getting some of that debris down the steep driveway into the right of way and keeping it there. Are there any resources to help people moving that debris if they're struggling to get it to the right of the way themselves? Any volunteer groups you know of, or any advice on that particular kind of issue?
Yeah, so we're also getting feedback on that. And another topic we're engaging on is our volunteer groups to start getting more structure to that. There's a lot of people that are wanting to help, and we're seeing communities come together to help each other. One resource that we could provide is to call 211. We think that's a good blanket place for resources people can reach out to. But again, we're seeing a lot of people helping each other as far as debris. Small batches is okay. I know that's cumbersome and there's a lot of heavy stuff out there. But again, more passes. There'll be multiple passes with debris trucks coming through. So yeah, appreciate the question.
I've got a follow-up for Dane here. This is Greg at Mount Express. about the debris sites that the county is managing. First of all, you mentioned 3 debris sites. Could you remind us what those are? And then also, what is a specific county timeline for how long those debris sites are expected to be open?
Yes, sir. Appreciate the question. So a reminder of where these activated sites currently are located. One is at Cane Creek Park. One is at the Old County Landfill in Woodfin, and the third is the Inca AB Tech Campus in Candler. And it's important to know that the permitting process for siting these temporary debris sites flows directly through North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. So there's a lot of checks that DEQ does on these properties to make sure that they're environmentally safe to use prior to these operations rolling there. So there's a 6-month basically term that starts that. We can extend that as far as on the NCDEQ side. Logistically, like I said before, we're looking to site more locations because it's going to be critical that we have as many of these strategically as needed, especially more heavily impacted areas like north and east, where we feel like we've got a gap and we're really rushing to get sites in those areas. So again, temporary, but these sites will be stood up for a little while.
Thanks. And we've gotten kind of the same question about the city sites. This might be for City Manager Deborah Campbell, but they have debris sites also set up in the city. And I believe she listed 3 locations there as well, 2 of them both being in Beaver View within a small distance of each other. Is there a reason that the city is setting up sites so close to each other? And do they have a timeline for their sites as well?
Thank you. Again, Deborah Campbell, City of Asheville. As I stated on Wednesday, the amount of debris that this community, particularly in the city of Asheville, we have about 40 football fields worth of debris that needs to be removed. We own the 2 locations that I identified, 65 Fort Street and Roger Farmer Park on 71 Beaverview Road. And so we stood up those sites in order to respond to, again, just the volume and amount of debris that needed to be stored. And that is why we did those. In terms of a time frame, it would be similar to what you've already heard. We hope, though, that as we get additional sites, that we can decommission sites. So it will be just, it's just time. And as was stated, this will be a marathon, not a sprint.
Hey, it's Laura, it's BPR again. I had a question for the county about Waste Pro.
Okay, yep, and this is the last question that we have time for.
Great. So we understand from several people that that Waste Pro is still charging even for the weeks that no trash was picked up. Is there going to be an adjustment or credit provided for customers?
So Waste Pro operations currently, and I know most everybody's heard their operational schedule. They're reaching and taking trucks to every area on their routes that is safely accessible. They have also been putting drop-off locations during a week, like at Lester Elementary and at in the Owen area for the school. So we can provide more information. I'll reach out to Waste Pro as far as the billing and what customers are seeing. We can get more information back on.
Thank you, Dane. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Just another reminder, we will not have briefings over the weekend, so there will be no briefing on Saturday, no briefing on Sunday. I know we've done a lot of thank yous, but I do want to thank Ben and Nick and Angelica and Catalina and Rocio and Johanna and Stacy and Cassie, and I'm trying to do this without crying, and our interpreters who have brought these briefings daily in English and Spanish and ASL when possible for 22 days straight. And thank you to Avril for being here and helping share this information. This team will be back on Monday to bring you the next community briefing, and we will have the Army Corps of Engineers back to talk more about debris removal with them. So thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we will look forward to seeing you on Monday.